Matters involving council. We don't have any matters involving council tonight, so we're moving on to reports from the director. Dr. Langford.
Thank you, Mr. Brewer. First, let me talk about update regarding capital purchases in football stadiums. I was on the initial construction crew of the home side at Beach. I was 7 or 8. My primary task is that I walk to Worshams, and if you can imagine this, 1981 was a different time. Usually, I went to Worshams and got Cokes, bologna, and cigarettes. I don't think Bobby will sell cigarettes to a 9-year-old now, but in 1981 it was a little different. But and I think what y'all said captured well what's happened over the last 50 years in Sumner County, probably longer. And Gallatin Stadium's even older over here. Is that communities built our athletic facilities, and they did a tremendous job. They did the very best they could. I mean, I remember the Oak Ridge boys. Jamie Allen went to Beach. Dwayne Allen, the Oak Ridge boys did fanfare one year before there was a stadium to help pay for the home side bleachers. There have been thousands and thousands of hours around the county poured into building stadiums. And I think the truth is that, just as we've said before, cement structures hit an end of life, and we are at the end of life at cement structures in Sumner County. And I don't think I'm speaking out of turn to say that I think everybody on the board is generally in the same place, that we want the absolute safest facilities we can. And my goal through this process is that we can remove bleacher conversations from our conversation for the rest of our natural born lives, where we don't have to think about it again, because we know we've got the best. And I appreciate the point. I think we said this last month. We set the bar high, and rather than go down, let's lift everything up. And if you go to any of our school campuses, there's nothing better than watching kids run out on the field or the court or the band competition field or whatever else they're doing, to watch the heart that they have. There's something to be said for learning how to love something more deeply than yourself, and most of us get that through sports and extracurriculars. It's no different. My daughters played soccer. They were not great athletes. They moved into speech and theater. They could sing better than they could run, but they had just as much pride and love for theater and chorus and everything. So we want to. I had some emails after the last thing, and I think you summed it up well. It's not an either or, it's a both and, because we've got to do some things to address the needs of our fine arts programs and our sports facilities and everything else. And I think we can work together to do those things. I think what we're looking at is a short or a slow and fast process. There are certain things, we have things on the agenda tonight that we need to approve, because we've got to get those things rolling to get bleachers built before next football season. We're going to also move slowly on some things, because our goal is to have all of our bleachers restored at the stadiums that lost bleachers next year. Now, that may look a little different. There's some, like White House is a different solution because of the way the stadium's constructed. White House may be just a little bit longer. We got some big questions, and that's the slow part. Beach, it's pretty easy. We need bleachers next year. That's not a long-term question. So the question is how do we move fast and slow? And I have to say, one of the most encouraging things over the last couple months is on September, I think it was the 7th, it was after the last board meeting, study session, we got together a group, each high school except Liberty Creek, sent a team, principal, athletic director, football coach, track cross-country coach, and 3 to 5 parents, community supporters, all came together, and we probably had 40, 50 people in there. And I thought there were a couple really exciting things. First, everybody was all in on making everything better for all student athletes. It wasn't my sport, your sport, our sport. It was our sports, our county. There were conversations between tables to try to align the whole county. There was a real commitment to excellence for facilities across the county. Even, the schools like Station Camp, for instance, whose bleachers are in good shape, they have a lot of needs too that need to be addressed. And so theirs are going to be different. It's not going to be a football stadium, but it's going to be some other things. And so we want to do our very best to address those. But I was very encouraged. And then I got to spend about 35 minutes. I was at Beach's homecoming Friday night, and I ran into Bobby Worsham, and we had a good 35-minute conversation where we relived the oral history of the Beach High School football stadium. And I wish we could have recorded it, because there's so many great turns and twists in how we got to where we are today, and it's really something for the Shackle Island community to be proud of. It's good to see football back at Shackle Island, and looking forward to a brighter future. Some of the goals that we talked about when we met on the 6th was, we're not just looking at replacing bleachers. We've got to look forward to what's coming next. In the next couple of years, we're going to have new sports. We're going to have lacrosse. We're going to have girls flag football. There will be others that we don't even know about yet over the course of the lifetime of these stadiums. We have, when we were one of the first counties, if you remember back, I think 2009, 2010, that added athletic trainers. At the time, athletic trainers gravitated towards the football program out of necessity, because that's where the most athletes were, that's where the most kids that got hurt were, and it's where they had space and money to fund the equipment and stuff that the trainers needed. Where we are now is the athletic trainer, if you talk to coaches, some of them would probably take another athletic trainer over an assistant coach. They're that vital to what we do. And it's not just the training that they give. They also are people of character that live with our athletes and take great care of them. I remember when we won the state in soccer in 2017, they interviewed all of our girls about what they want to do in life, and over 2/3 of them chose athletic training because of the relationship they had with our trainer. She was that good. So as we're looking at these facilities, one of the things that we want to do is make sure that we have state-of-the-art training facility spaces that are centrally located so all of our athletes and students can access them. That's going to be a big part of our push. Restrooms were mentioned, concession stands, all those things that go into it. We need to take the time and get this right. A lot of our facilities, because they were built over the course of 40, 50, 60 years, they were done by communities and paid for as they went, because that's the very best that we could do. Now we've got time to step back. The slow part is stepping back and getting it right so that we add things that are desperately needed. I think, one of the things that I really want to urge that we consider is that we put a track at every high school in Sumner County. If we have space to do it, I think we do it. Track and cross country are fast-growing sports. They're wonderful sports. There's huge enthusiasm for it in our community. It's the right thing to do. Currently, we have 2 regulation competition tracks. We have one at Hendersonville High School. We have one at Liberty Creek High School. We have a 6-lane track at Station Camp, but you can't run certain meets on that track, and there's been some water damage and things there that we need to address. I know, not to harp on White House, but my next to last year principal, we had a girl that won the state in the 400. When she trained, she had to go to Hendersonville or Springfield to train. We want to have the best facilities for our kids, close enough where they can access them and take advantage of them. So, safety, looking forward, being forward thinking, and getting the ball rolling to do as many things as we can, as quickly as we can, while also stepping back and being very strategic about our moves. We're probably, just in terms of our recommendation tonight, you'll see a little bit later on the agenda, is to move $15.5 million out of reserves to fund the first wave. That will not cover. I'm not going to lie. We had a beautiful day that day. Some of our stadium proposals, we could host a Super Bowl. We were close to a retractable roof. Dr. Woods made a strong case for a retractable roof in Portland. We're probably going to nix that, but you know what? We want to dream big because we want the very best for our communities. And so we're going to recommend that we move $15.5 million out of reserves to help fund the first wave of our stadium renovations, rebuilds, and facilities updates to move forward. In addition to that, we've got some other projects that we had already kind of prioritized that we're going to take out of GP Capital. Some of those are on the agenda tonight. There's a fencing bid that will allow us to purchase fencing all year. If you remember Ms. Brown, when she presented about safety last month, fencing is one of the things that we can purchase with safety money. We're also, as we rework some of these stadiums and things, we're going to have to tear down fencing and put up new fencing. It's great that we've got a strong bid on fencing. We'll be able to use that in multiple ways to benefit our school campuses. We've got Station Camp High School gym roof is on the consent agenda. So the gym roof at Station Camp desperately needs to be replaced. Talked to Andy Brown this morning. He checked with the contractor. If we approve it tonight, we're looking at about a 7-week lead for them to finish it. 3 weeks to get the materials together, and 4 weeks to complete the task. They can work on it while kids are in school. It's not a problem because they're not having to take everything up. So the gym roof at Station Camp High School desperately needs to be replaced. We're also asking to replace the flooring at Station Camp High School. You know, it's hard to believe. A lot of people don't believe Station Camp High School is the age that it is. It's a little older than people think. And one of the things that's happened over the years is the leveler that was put under the floor tiles has started to disintegrate. So every time you wax it or do anything to it, it pops a floor tile. And it's hard to go back in because the other tiles are in the same state. So it's disintegrating underneath there. The best thing we can do is just go in and replace all the tile. That's going to be, they could do it whenever we asked, but in terms of not disrupting school, we're going to have to phase that in. Mr. Brown is checking to see if we can do either the upper floor or the lower level over Christmas break when they've got a good 3 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks in there to work, and then do the other in the summer after school's out. What we don't want to do is get halfway done and have kids coming back in after fall break, Thanksgiving break, or spring break. That's a pretty sizable job, and so we want to make sure that we get that one done. You know, because in addition to putting the floor back, I don't know if you know, you may not know this, and I'll say this facetiously, lots of kids walk on a school floor. So once we get the tile down, we need to put several coats of wax over it or it'll mark up, and if you don't do it initially, you regret it because it's harder to get those stains and marks off. So we want to do it right and then have it last another 30, 40 years before, 50 years before we have to look at it again. Some of the other things that are on the agenda for tonight is a boundary and topographical study at BHS. That has to be done before we can look at putting bleachers back in. So we can go ahead and start that process and get that done and have that ready to roll. Other thing is the demolition of, we've got a bid to do the demo at Portland High School, the 3 middle sections, Hendersonville High School, the visitor section, and Beach High School, the home section. We've already demoed the visitor side. So we want to get that lined up so after the, like 12 hours after the last play, we can start knocking down bleachers and get rolling for the next stage of development. So if we can get ahead, those are things that we can move quickly on and get ahead so that we can be in a great, we're going to be tight the lead time. We have talked to the company that generally provides steel for bleachers, and if we move quickly, we'll be able to get on currently in a lot of places there's a 6-month delay from request time to when you actually get steel. They're willing, they want to work with us to get bleachers back in Sumner County, and so we're hopeful if we can when we get to that point of the process that we'll be able to find a vendor that will bid and jump in there that'll be able to meet our needs to get football stadiums built. Westmoreland Middle School chilling tower. I said this somewhere at the end, somebody raised their hand and said, "What's a chilling tower?" Which is fair because until a couple months ago I didn't know what a chilling tower was either. But a chilling tower is a central component of the air conditioning unit at Westmoreland Middle School. It's about my age. There's a lot of wisdom that comes with being 51, but being a cooling element is not good. So we need to, best thing we can do is just replace that chilling tower, and that'll really help things at Westmoreland Middle School. It's time to do it. That thing would last forever. You can go manufacture parts and get it to run, but it's not terribly efficient, and it's causing other problems because it throws off a lot of water and it causes other issues and problems. So it's just time to replace it. Andy and his team have done a great job of maintaining, but it's time to spend a little money and fix that at Westmoreland Middle School. All those things are on your consent agenda for tonight. Some other things that are coming up in the future. Hopefully next month we'll have the Portland High School roof. Portland High School, we need to replace the entire roof, and it's going to be pricey. It's probably going to be somewhere around 1.5, 1.6 million. But we've reached the stage where it's critical for us to replace the roof at Portland High School. You'll have some more HVAC units and components. Just as a reminder, most of our schools don't have like one massive HVAC unit that runs everything. They have some central air, and then they have a whole bunch of little units, and those are a lot of times what's going out. We're going to have to do over the next year or two, we're going to have to start replacing those units, but also one of the issues we have is we've lost about 120 years of collective experience in our HVAC team with retirements. And so one of the ways that we're going to have to address that, there aren't enough HVAC technicians. If you were going to pay whatever price, HVAC techs now are going downtown and making $100,000, $125,000 a year doing HVAC work on commercial projects. it's not a problem that we're just going to be able to fix by hiring. Part of what we're going to have to do is spend the money to automate a lot of our systems so that it's easier to manage, and they're on the same. Like right now, our guys are managing 6, 7, 8 different systems, and that requires, it's good when you got 40 years experience or 35 years experience, you can do it in your sleep. If you have somebody new that's learning, it's much more difficult, and it slows our response time. So we're looking at that as well, and then we're hoping also to give you a capital report and kind of a basically after the meeting that we had in September, we gave each school prepared a sheet with all their requests for facilities. The architect is looking through those now and putting that in, getting some mock-ups and getting some things for us to come back with that team and look at and see what tweaks and changes they want to make, and then we'll bring that to the board. Again, some things we'll just have to go ahead and bring because it's time sensitive and urgent, but we're going to try to fit that within an overall master plan that gets us to where we're going. Because honestly, like just monetarily, to be good stewards with what we're talking about to do facilities wise, but also compensation and some of the other big ticket items, some of these things are not going to be an immediate thing. If we're talking about building a brand new stadium on a campus, you know, like take White House for instance, or Portland or Gallatin or wherever else, there's a lot of conversations to be had. No decisions have been made on any of that. But you're talking about a brand new stadium is probably a 2-year project. Whereas like at Beach, we already have, in Hendersonville, we have a field, we have a scoreboard, we've got infrastructure. We're mainly like first wave, not the only wave, but the first wave we can work on getting the bleachers back in and get that knocked out. And then we've also, we are in the midst, Ms. Skinner, do you know how many, Ms. Dammit, how many strategic planning meetings we've done? A lot. A lot. We meet in September. We're in the 30s. So in the month of September, we spend about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, and we meet with the principal and leadership team of each school. And they share everything. We look at the data. We talk about their staffing. We talk about capital projects and things like that. And so what we're doing now is I'm compiling a master list of all those asks, because as we've gone through it, what we've seen are some of the things that are projects that are on Ms. Brown's radar for safety. We can move those into that pot to make sure we can go ahead and address those. Some of them are things that we already have. You know, some of the things that we've already kind of earmarked money for is a track at Gallatin High School and Station Camp High School. We can go ahead and get started on some of those this year. And so some of those things are coming up. Station Camp High School track, we may be a year off on that just because there's some irrigation and drainage work that we need to do first. We don't want to go in and put a brand new track and then have it get flooded and we damage it. So we want to make sure we fix some of those issues first. So that's the kind of stuff that I want to be able to bring to y'all so you can see a master plan in addition to some of the short-term moves that we have to make. One other thing that I missed that's on tonight's agenda, and we'll have a little bit later to talk about, but I'll just go ahead and inform you what it is on our capital projects list, is Polaris Rangers. Polaris Rangers are the vehicles. Sometimes they're called Gators, they're called different things, but basically what our schools have expressed a need for is the ability for our athletic trainers to move between fields. A lot of times now they're doing it in their personal vehicle, which is fine unless you have like in the fall, if you have maybe a JV football game, a volleyball game, a soccer game, band practice. You have enough cars on campus that it's hard to maneuver, they get blocked in, or like one game dismisses and you can't get to another field. We've had things where like a volleyball player separates a shoulder, the trainer was responding to a call at the soccer field, and it takes them 20 minutes to get back because of traffic. The Polaris, the Rangers give us the ability to move, not requiring road traffic. It also gives us the ability for the trainer to put all of his or her equipment on it instead of loading it in and out of their car. And also if they need to transport a student, not for something that requires an ambulance, obviously, but if it's a sprained ankle or something like that, we're able to move them out to their car to help assist for something that's non-emergency. So we're putting on the agenda. I suspect that we'll ask for more of these in the next months. We have schools that have them, but they're older, and we need to really dig in and look at those and see if we just need to go ahead and replace those. We have 4 schools that currently, 3 schools that don't have one. White House, Westmoreland, and Portland do not have one and have requested one. Beach High School, when the visitor side collapsed, it crushed one of their tractors, and they've asked for one to help them in the interim to maneuver things, and it's a great use. They're in a little, they have that need for that Ranger, and I think it makes sense for us to go ahead and prioritize that. Now, I'll tell you up front, The lead time right now on a Polaris Ranger is 271 days. So that's why we went ahead and put it forward tonight, because the clock's not going to get any faster. You know, we can try to look and see if we can find something that Chris Harrison's looked to see if we can find something that we could get faster. But we also need to get something that will handle the wear and tear. These are used, if you talk to any of our coaches or athletic trainers, the ones that have them, they're used every day. And they're hauling equipment, they're hauling coolers, they're hauling, it's like watching a if you watch a high school football practice when it's hot, it's like watching a small army move. You have to move, the old days of salt tablets, ammonia tabs and things like that are long gone. Like, they're state of the art in terms of taking care of our kids and hydrating them and everything else. It requires the movement of a lot of equipment, and this is the right piece of equipment to do that. So that's kind of an update on our stadiums and capital. If y'all have any questions about that, I'd be happy to answer those.